Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Weekly Wave. We're going to go ahead and get started, and some of this will be repeats from the following weeks, and there might be some new stuff as well. So first thing we want to address or talk about is requesting state assistance. Anytime you're reaching out to us, we ask that you include your name, phone number on the request. Provide the student's STN or local ID only. Don't provide their name, date of birth, any personal information. We don't need that. We can pull up their record with their local ID and STN, so please don't send that stuff. Also, this includes anytime you're sending a question to the studentdatainfo@sde.ok.gov mailbox, any of our team group chats, or any personal email boxes. State testing numbers. Please know, and we've gotten a lot of calls about this, the state testing number system is located in single sign-on. People are still looking for it in the Wave. It's not been in the Wave for a bit. So if you are having trouble finding it, you might have to go into single sign-on and add the access there for the state testing number system, because it's no longer in the Wave. We've cleared all the students that had 100% option. So I know that there were comments earlier about, why are those pulling up into your queues? They should be resolving themselves. We've set up a process where it actually automatically sends it to the state assist queue, and we're caring for those. And I think as of this morning, that state queue was cleared. So we're trying to do everything we can to assist you in that situation. We do ask that the ones that are still outstanding in your queue, that you work to resolve those students. And it's just a matter of using your best guess as to if that's the correct student. I know there are students out there that have a like a prior school of like OKS something test district. That's actually if the student has applied for a transfer in your district and didn't have an STN, and it goes through that STN creation process, and then you go back and enter that student into your system to create an enrollment. You don't have an STN in the system at that point. So it sends it back through the STN queue. And if you're seeing those, chances are that's that student that was created in the actual state in the transfer system. So just, do your best to resolve those yourself. If for some reason you have questions, you can always use the state or contact the OSDE button. Just make sure you're providing your name and phone number so we know who to get back with. Anybody have any questions about that? I see there's one in the chat that, what about the ones that are still pending SDN assignments since 8/21? If they're in your queue, you would need to work those. I mean, it's the district's responsibility to clear those out. If you have questions or need assistance with one,
Nancy,
definitely, yes.
can I interrupt? I think a lot of people are confused that if they don't realize they have to actually click on the button, that they have to request contact SCE and put a note in there, because when I log in, I see like 6,000 of them. So the only thing that's going to make it stand out to me or know that you need help is if you do that, because then it flags it as state assistance. Yes, you'll need to do a contact SDE, because that'll flag it as needs state assistance, and I'll work those within 24 to 48 hours. Otherwise, I don't know. And there's 6,000 of them in there. So, you guys log in and see, 10, 15, a few hundred. I log in, and so there's no way for me to know that you need help unless you contact SDE, click on that button, and leave a note. No
So
problem.
actually, Actually, you're going to click the no, like has the student ever had an STN? And then it takes you to another page where it's the contact SDE. Is that correct, Sydney?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sydney, for jumping in here. I appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on. I'm sorry.
Anytime.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks. We're going to move on to ownership. So Ownership Wizard is now located only in the single sign-on. It was in the wave prior to the start of the year, but it's been removed and it's only in single sign-on. Please resolve your outstanding ownership conflicts, because they're not going to, if there's one outstanding, it's not going to show up in your state reports, such as child count and your October 1st consolidated report. I know there are districts out there that are having issues with those being resolved, and we are working with the developer of that tool, and he has told me today that he has believed that he's got a enhancement that will help clear out some of those outstanding ones that have been resolved and that are not clearing out. So keep checking those. If they're still showing up, please reach out to us so we can help you get those cleared. Does anyone have any questions on that, on ownership? Okay, if not, I'm going to move on. Data validation. You need to go in and be sure that you're checking your validation issues. If you need help in resolving them, you can reach out to us. We're at studentdatainfo@sde.ok.gov. You can find those validation errors under district data validation, student data or data validation wizard, and it will pull up demographics. It'll pull up, I can't think of them all, but different sections like staff information, anything that you have in those areas, it is going to pull up the validation errors. You may not have any, which is great, but be looking at that. Students showing up with validation errors will cause issues on your reports, so they definitely need to be cleared. And Cody's saying that most everything in the ownership conflicts looks like it's been cleared out. So just keep looking at it, making sure that there's nothing in there. Would you check to see if you received Muskogee Public Schools calendar information? I think we have resolved the issue. Cody, can you check on that for Darla? If you continue to have validation errors on a student who has exited, you still have to clear those errors. Even if they've exited, they're in there, you're going to have to clear that error. Any other questions on data validation? Okay, we're going to move on to EdPlan. So if you've got issues with students that are not appearing in EdPlan, first thing you need to do is you need to check your STN to make your queue in your STN system and make sure that that child is not appearing to need a STN resolved to them or a new one created. You need to check and make sure that that child is not in your ownership or in your validation issues, because if they're in any of those areas, they will not go to EdPlan. So you have to clear any outstanding issues with that for them to go there. And once they've been resolved, you need to give it about 48 hours for it to actually transfer into EdPlan. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. And please, if you have a question and don't want to type it in the chat and you want to unmute, I encourage you to do that. Next thing is dates to remember. October 1st opened today. So And along with child count and FQSR opened a couple days ago or a week or so ago. Class size verification is open now for you to make changes in there. So please, on your consolidated report, you can't certify it until after in October. By the way, October 1st actually falls on a Saturday. So that's not going to actually be the date this time. I have to get confirmation whether it's going to be the 30th of September or it's going to be the 3rd of October. But I will let you know that. But in the meantime, please be looking at that to see that every student is showing up correctly, that your calendars are right. I don't think that's for FQSR, but make sure that your special ed students are listed correctly. Make sure your kids with free and reduced lunch are issued correctly. Just make sure you're checking all of that. Also, make sure you're checking find missing students, because if they're showing up and find missing students, they do not count towards your numbers. That area does not have to be cleared, but if there's a student you know that needs to be counted in your count, they should not be appearing on find missing students. Darla, on class size verification, we have teachers that have their teacher certification number showing, but there's still a warning. How do we find out what the error is? Good question. Ryan Piper will be doing meetings once a week with districts who have questions on how to clear these things out. I believe it's going to be on Wednesday, but you'll be receiving notification about that. I encourage you, if you have errors on the class size app, to join those meetings so they can help and assist you clear those warnings.
Nancy, this is
Yes.
this is Dina. Just one thing that we have found. I talked to Dean Hupp yesterday, because if a teacher had changed their name and with us, but not with the state,
Right.
some of them were showing errors and some were not. So
Okay.
when I called and talked to Dean, because I'm like, I don't understand this, he said there's a secondary system to that. So like if their name doesn't match, but their date of birth does match up, then
Right.
it should not show an error. So we're going in today and checking our SIS to make sure we actually have a date of birth entered
Okay.
on our teachers, because I do think that that is clearing up a couple of those.
Dina, thank you very much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. But that is true. If what she said is exactly the case. So make sure if you've got someone showing up in the teacher section, make sure their date of birth is in there. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next section. Oh, well, let me ask, is there any more questions?
Nancy, I have a couple of questions. This is Terry from Choctaw.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm wondering if I just need to wait for the class size audit meetings, but I'm still unsure about how to get the U number. I thought Eric said in the consolidation meeting that those teachers would have to get an affiliates login and do this application, but I don't know if that was just for adjunct or if it's also to get this U number for teachers still waiting on certification.
Terry, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not even familiar with that terminology, a U number. So what I would recommend is send Ryan an email on that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to, provide the wrong information.
And also one other thing I saw in the class size audit, so I can email this as well. It would help if all the students listed in the class were alphabetical. They were last year, but this year they're not, and it's really hard to verify.
Is there a way to sort it?
No, there's no sorting on that, but you can export them all, but I don't want to have to export out every single class. I just want to look, the numbers match, but I want to make sure the names match. And there's no way to sort it.
Okay, provide that feedback to Ryan in your email.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Chris, and you're saying it would help if the middle name of the teacher could also be added to the reports. Could you send Ryan Piper that email as a suggestion? I'm not sure how hard it would be for Dean to add that, but it's a very good suggestion. So thank you for that. Okay, there's no other question about the dates. I'm going to move on. New wave accounts. Okay, so when you have a new person coming into your district and they don't have a single sign-on, or they don't have access to the wave, but they have a single sign-on, your superintendent has to go in and provide the role for the wave access. And then at that point, the employee needs to go and send an email to service desk at omes.ok.gov requesting an affiliate's logon. Now, I've been hearing that it's taken longer than 72 hours for that to show up, but I just would recommend, once you get that ticket number and it's been 24 to 48 hours, you might call OMES and escalate it. So I don't have their phone number on the slide, but I'm going to put it in the chat. Or Cody, can you put it in the chat for me? OMES's phone number, please. Anybody have any questions about getting a new wave account? Okay. Issues accessing the wave, because I know that sometimes you forget your password or whatever. So what you want to do is you want to go into the SSO page. And actually, Sydney, would you like to cover this with them? Because I know you're an expert at this.
Sure.
Okay.
So if you're having an issue accessing the wave, as long as you have your actual login, you're going to go to the homepage of the single sign-on. You're going to open the wave. You're going to go into log in with your user ID, which is usually your single sign-on username. Sometimes it's different, but at affiliates.ok.gov. Then the Microsoft page will pop up. It'll ask you for your Microsoft email, which is also the same thing, at affiliates.ok.gov. When you get to the password, you click on Forgot Password. It'll email you a temporary password, which should be your school email. You'll have to enter that temporary password, change it, and then if this doesn't work, you're going to have to contact the service desk at omes.ok.gov or 405-521-2444, which Cody just put it in the chat, which is the service desk at omes.ok.gov.
Thank you, Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm getting pretty close to the end of the slide. So if you have or need any assistance, please email us at studentdatainfo@sde.ok.gov. Or you can reference our resources at the sde.ok.gov student-information-docs-guides. There's a lot of good information on that page. There's previous wave meetings that we've had. There is our attendance guidelines. There's the wave requirements documents. There's the wave reporting documents. So please go in there and check that information out. Rick is asking, where is the teacher certification number pulling from data validation? It's pulling from wherever you've entered it into your SIS. So when you enter that teacher into your student information system, if something isn't matching and we go through validation, like if you've got a wrong teacher number, the teacher's name has changed, And I hope that's what you're referring to, Rick. If not, please unmute yourself and let me. Okay, that's it. All right, so it's not on the slide, but I know last week everybody asked about PEBT and when that's coming out. I still don't have an answer. We're waiting for the training to be finalized. And once it's finalized, it will be released. And at that point, your correction window will open up. So I know it's not on the slides, just wanted to mention that. Other than that, that is the end of my presentation. Does anyone else have any questions? And feel free to unmute yourself. All right, well, I appreciate everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We're all really kind of slammed right now. And if you have a recommendation of something you'd like discussed on these calls, please email us at studentdatainfo@sde.ok.gov, and Cody can get that to me, and I'd be glad to research and put something together on whatever topic you'd like to discuss. Other than that, thank you so much for joining today. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. We're going to go ahead and stay on for a minute if you have questions.